but today I will be the moderator for this session. Before I start, please turn on your camera since the attendance will be monitored through the screen appearance. And for this session, we have two PIC. They are me and Titis Mega. So if there is any problem, you may communicate it to the PIC one. And please look for their name in the attendance list with the name PIC one. And now we are going to have session with a title Journalism in the Field of International Relations. And this session is expected to accommodate the students who are interested in understanding and producing journalism in an international realm of practice. And as one of the most important aspects of international relations, journalism and media play a big role in reporting the global news to be accessible worldwide. And given the high relevancy of the topic for the grindom of IR Summer Course 2021, we would like to propose a discussion about this topic, and this session will be delivered by Mr. Dzulfikar Fathur Rahman. So for operator, can you help me to share screen the CV of Mr. Dzulfikar? Okay, thank you. Mr. Dzulfikar has been graduated from International Relations of Universitas Diponegoro in 2018, and he also has internship experience in Center for Indonesian Policy Studies in 2019, and at the same year become volunteer too in Indonesian Development Forum. And now he is working in the Jakarta Post as a journalist. But not only that, he also doing a project called Indonesian Econ Recovery. I think that's all that I can tell you about his CV. And because Mr. Dzulfikar is already here, I'm gonna greet him first. So good afternoon, Mr. Dzulfikar. How are you today?
Good afternoon. I'm fine. Thank you. I hope you are fine as well.
Okay, of course, I'm actually great. And because I think that Mr. Dzulfikar is ready for sharing his knowledge and insight about journalism in international relations. And I'm sure all the students here is very excited too, including me, to hear your perspective about journalism in international relations. So without further ado, Mr. Dzulfikar, time and screen is yours.
Okay, thank you for the introduction, the miracle. Can I have my presentation slide on the screen?
Okay, operator, can you help Mr. Dzulfikar?
Okay, is it going to go on full screen or just the window screeners? Okay. Hi everyone. Good afternoon. I'm Dzulfikar Rahman. I'm currently working as a business journalist at the Jakarta Post. You can call me Zul or Joel. So when I was in freshman year, journalism was not really the first thing that came to mind when I thought about IR. Yet here I am. And actually, if I look around in this industry, there's actually a lot of IR graduates. So let me introduce you to what a typical journalist do. Next slide. On a day-to-day basis, journalists can cover events like natural disasters or a hearing at the House of Representatives or a company listing its shares on the stock market. And journalists also talk to people, either the general public, maybe a customer of an e-wallet, or a random passerby, or the president himself. And journalists also can wrangle data and analyze data to find stories to tell with this emerging field called data journalism. Now, depending on your roles, you may have to create a story, an article, you may have to create a photo or produce a video. Next. Now, let's get you guys in my shoes for a bit. Suppose that you are a journalist at the business desk at the Jakarta Post. At the business desk, we covered a lot of things in the economy. One of them is trade, and trade is very, very related with IR. Next. Suppose that our editor wants us to cover the latest trade data from the Statistics Indonesia. BPS reported recently that our exports and trade surplus reached a record high in August, as you can see in the chart on the right-hand side. However, we cannot report the data as is. We need to add some more context to that. And to do that, we need to know a couple basic things. This is where IR comes in. Next. First, we need to know that our exports benefit greatly from the faster recovery in advanced countries like the US or Japan, and in emerging countries as well, like China and India. These countries have vaccinated a larger proportion of their population faster than most countries in the world, and thus they have managed to re-emerge from pandemic restrictions earlier than most countries as well. Second, these countries happen to be our main trading partners. And China in particular has been our largest trading partner for years. And third, China and India are the main overseas markets for our coal, which is our main export commodity. So if we piece these things together, we can get a comprehensive stories that can help readers get the gist as to why our exports and trade surplus rose to a record high in August. Next. Under its umbrella, trade actually comprises a lot of things, a lot of interesting topics. Last year, for example, we had this story, a big one, on the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, or the RCEP, which made it to our year-ender. And in July 2020, we also had the implementation of Indonesia-Australia Comprehensive Economic Partnership, or IACPA. And we're also watching some developing stories, including the ongoing negotiation for a CEPA between Indonesia and EU, and also a trade dispute at the WTO between EU and Indonesia on our decision to ban nickel exports. And the government is also trying to diversify our export markets by encouraging more trade between businesses in Indonesia and non-traditional countries like Latin American countries. Next. Aside from trade, we also cover pressing issues like climate change and how it relates with our economic policies. This topic may seem a little less obvious as to how it relates with IR and how we as an IR graduate can fill in. But actually we can add a nuanced perspective by analyzing how Indonesia compares with other countries, its peers, such as China and Singapore, in decoupling economic growth and CO2 emissions. Or maybe we want to analyze how Indonesia compares with other countries in meeting its specific climate ambitions as outlined in the 2015 Paris Agreement. And one of the stories can be seen in the chart on the right-hand side in this slide. Next. With the pandemic still unfolding, we are also closely watching our progress, development, and outlook for recovering from the pandemic at the business desk. In July, for example, we ran a story based on the latest World Economic Outlook from the International Monetary Fund, which was released in late July, I believe. And the IMF projected a lopsided recovery in the world. The fund stated that the divergent path in recovery was mainly split based on how fast a country was vaccinating its population. And again, this may seem like a little less obvious how it relates with IR, but we can actually have more perspective if we take an angle of the inequality between countries in the world. For example, I tried to analyze how vaccination rates compares between countries by its income group. As you can see in the chart on the right-hand side, we can see that the median vaccination rate in high-income countries is far higher than the median vaccination rate in low-income countries and lower middle-income countries. And if we look at the median vaccination rate in upper middle income countries, it's actually half that of the median vaccination rate in high income countries. But aside from economic recovery and then climate change and trade, IR graduates can also add some more insights when they are reporting for other economic issues such as fiscal and monetary policies and inflation. Next. So to cover and write these stories, so far we just need some writing skill, knowledge on trade and international political economy, or IPE, and a bit of data analysis and data visualization skills. The good news is a large part of this skill set is offered and covered in college classes. Next. So with my limited experience, I have encountered many amazing IR graduates in journalism, which who covered beats and topics that might actually fall beyond the scope of lessons that we got in school, and they still strive. They still thrive in these subfields. Next. The case in point is our fellow IR alumni. His name is Agia. Agia is from the batch of 2014, and he covers sports for Kompas. I also had this former colleague who covered corruption for the Jakarta Post. He is an IR graduate from Brawijaya University in Malang, East Java. But aside from this political or sports issues, IR graduates can also, I believe, add a nuanced perspective in reporting about environment, public health, entertainment, life, inequality. And I have these two colleagues from IR graduates as well who covers the energy sector, and they are very, very amazing at this job. One thing I noticed that helps us IR graduates to move across beats or issues is our very broad knowledge on various topics. And people have been saying this repeatedly many times, right? But let me offer you a friendly suggestion. Next. Try to pick some issue, maybe a topic or two, on which you want to deepen your understanding about. And then while you're on it, try to pick up some useful, perhaps complementary hard skills. If you want to be a visual journalist, maybe consider stepping up your video editing skills so that you can apply them in a professional setting. You can start with working for the, I don't know, maybe the media and technology department of our students association. If you want to be a data journalist, consider joining an online course or reading an open source book online to pick up some statistical and programming knowledge. And if you want to be business journalist who dives deep into the financial sector, consider taking a class on financial issues. Unfortunately, I have to learn this the hard way. So when I just got out of school in early 2019, I tried to find a job. And as I scrolled down the list of requirements, I didn't really feel like I have any expertise that would meet the requirement or help me deliver during the job. And moreover, I also felt like I lacked a specific hard skills that would help me not only deliver the output during the job, if I get one, but also compete against other candidates during the recruitment process. But thank God I was just starting to learn some economics, IPE, statistics, and programming skills to wrangle and analyze data, which has opened up a whole new set of possibilities for me. Next. If we look at our skill set, if we try to build a mental model of our skill set as an IR graduate, it may look something like this. And deepening our understanding on some issues doesn't necessarily mean that we have to give up our knowledge on many other issues. I believe the trade-off centers mainly on which issues you want to have a surface level understanding and which ones you want to have a deeper understanding about. In my case, I will replace this question mark with data analysis, data visualization, statistics, econ, and IPE. But I believe this will vary from one person to another. And especially as they progress along in their college or career journey. And moreover, we have to remain open that things in this stuff may just change along the way. Maybe you find something more interesting, or maybe you figure out that you are good at something that you haven't really thought about, right? Next. Well, another good news is we have a lot of ways that we can try to deepen our understanding of skills on a lot of these topics. First, you can try to take a relevant class. If you want to be an environmental journalist, consider taking the environmental crime class, right? If you want to be a finance journalist, try to take the financial crime class. Both of these were elective courses during my days in college. And second, you can also try to learn on your own, maybe by taking online courses. And third, you can also try to work on some side projects, especially if you have the time and resources, because side projects can give you the practical experience without having to really go through the trouble of applying for a job. And fourth, try to volunteer. In July 2019, in my internship, I decided to volunteer at this event called Indonesia Development Forum, BIDF. This event was a collaboration between the Bapenas and Knowledge Sector Initiative. So I volunteered as a support for the evaluation team of that event. And volunteering at this event has gave me a practical experience in collecting survey responses from participants. And lastly, which I think is the most recommended one, is consider taking an internship. And I'm not talking about the kind of internship that you take, but you don't really want to do it, but you have to anyway, because you want to meet the requirement to graduate. I'm talking about the kind of internship that you take because you actually want to do it. Maybe you want to achieve something. If you want to be a journalist, consider doing an internship at your local media, or maybe an internship at your students' press. Because internship can give you a lot of things. First, it can help you figure out whether the job is right for you, such as like testing the waters. Second, it can also help you build your network. And then third, it can help you navigate the industry early on. And then moreover, it can give you an exposure to the day-to-day working environment of that job, maybe in that particular company. This will help you because when you are finished with your study, when you graduate, you don't have to start at zero. Or better still, you can avoid repeating my mistakes. I think that's it from me. We can spend the rest of the time today discussing about what you want to know more about journalism.
Okay, that's such a nice presentation from Mr. Dzulfikar. Thank you so much for the insightful materials. And now it is time for the students to raise some question or deliver their points of view for this session. But before that, Mr. Dzulfikar, you wanted to answer it directly one by one, or you want me to collect it first, then answer it later?
I think I'll take it one by one.
Okay, okay. Okay, if you guys have something to be delivered, you may click the raise hand feature, and after I mention your name, you may ask it directly to Mr. Dzulfikar. Okay. I think there is two people who already raised their hands. So the first one, Rosanna Argandari, you may deliver your question.
Okay, thank you, the moderator, for delivering my questions. Also, thank you for the material that I have today. So I want to ask about the internship. If I took the internship, but my major is not related to the internship. Like I'm taking English literature major, and my internship is like computer vision. What do you think about it? Is it any like opportunity to get the job soon? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Rosanna. Actually, I really think that it's totally fine if you take an internship outside your major. Um, Even if you are not really sure whether that is the right decision to make, but at the end of the internship, you may find yourself exposed to a lot more doors open, a lot more possibilities than you did before the internship. So I think it's totally okay. And whether it will immediately help you find a job, that will really depends on many things. It will hinge on the job market itself, and then um, the how much experience has you gained and has prepared you to take on the job that you are aiming for. So internship helps a lot, but how far it will get you in getting a job immediately will really depend on many other things as well. So I just think that you should keep that in mind.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Dzulfikar. Ms. Rosanna, is it clear?
Yes, is it very clear? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Rosanna. Okay, so next we have Muhammad Ali Farhan. So, Mr. Muhammad Ali Farhan, you may deliver your question.
Okay. Yes, thank you very much. I would like to ask a bit of a question regarding the journalism itself. So, journalism, as far as I know, is kind of, like I wouldn't say a dangerous job, but it could be. Like for example, maybe you've heard of the activism through journalism, and a lot of them may be like exposing like the how do I say it, like the bad side of very big politicians, like the recent Pandora Papers that has just been released. I would like to ask you, like, is there some in maybe in your field of work or in the field of journalism with international relations, do you think there's like a level of idealism that you should be uphold at all times to make yourself maybe like unbiased or like make you want to pursue the truth? That's my question. Thank you.
It's a really heavy question. Thank you, Alif. So yeah, journalism can actually turn into a very dangerous job, especially if you cover very, very sensitive beats like politics and um, environmental issues. Right? We heard a lot of news about violence against journalists and these topics, especially when it involves big politician names. Right? The question is, how far should we maintain our idealism in journalism? Right? But I think that will really depend not only on your decision, but also on the job, your editor, your whole team, and then your media organization also. Because say that you are a very idealistic person, right? And then you jump into journalism. That will be okay if your media organization is also holding the same idealistic principles as high as you are. But if they don't, you won't get any immediate protection from your company in case something that happens, right? Although you will still get some support from non-governmental organizations and advocacy groups, right? But first of all, you have to make sure that you get the protection or you get the support from your media company. So that's first. And whether your job, whether your evolve as a journalist from current to a dangerous one. It will also depend on how far you know the issue and how far you want to pursue it. If you say that you are involved in reporting about an illegal mining operation, maybe in Riyadh, about palm oil, and then you find out that you find out that there are signs this involves some politicians' big names, right? But the first challenge is to prove, to bring about a proof and evidence that it's not just your gut feeling or whatever the rumor has it, but you also have to like find the documents that really mention the politician's name. And this has been at the heart of the recent spat between Luhut and Harisaza, right? And so I think making sure that you have enough evidence is really the first step when you are doing a very sensitive reporting. I haven't really done that myself because I'm in a business beat, but some of my friends have been doing this kind of things, and yeah, there can be a lot of challenges. I don't really know whether I answer your question.
No. It's a very good question. It came from, in my opinion, it came from like a realistic point of view. So, it gives another perspective for me. Thank you very much for your answer.
Yeah, that's actually.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Muhammad Ali Farhan and Mr. Dzulfikar. So next we have a question from the chat box. I'm gonna read it for you. The question is from Miss Shalina Asifa. Mr. Dzulfikar, I am Shalina from University of Diponegoro International Relations. Oh, I'm sorry, from University of Diponegoro. International relations are always related to diplomacy. What kind of roles that is owned by the journalism and international media as a non-state actor in public diplomacy? I think that's all.
Thank you, Shalina. Yeah, this is actually also at the heart of what we do at the Jakarta Post, right? Because we publish a lot of op-eds from state representatives, such as the ambassadors. And I think there's actually a lot of doors for journalism to play in diplomacy, in international diplomacy, including by criticizing how a government may or may not respond to a call for help from other countries, right? For example, you see how the media played a really key role during the Afghanistan crisis recently, right? But as a journalist, we also have to take this very cautiously. I'm not covering the international affairs, but I also deal with a lot of issues that happen to involve a dispute in the WTO between EU and Indonesia, such as palm oil, or maybe some negotiations over CIPA and what Indonesia wants to be included in the CIPA or wants to be excluded in the CIPA. Sometimes when the issue is kind of sensitive and we don't really have like the courage, not courage, but we just don't think it's wise to tag along. Maybe we should like rethink our involvement in the issue. Maybe so. I kind of find it hard to explain, but actually, media companies can get involved in any international affairs, either from its direct reporting, or maybe it can publish its own opinion piece, right? And then this will be written by the editorial team. And if you read the Jakarta Post, our editorial pieces, opinion pieces, have been kind of vocal in criticizing sometimes the leaders from other countries, and then that will result in some form of feedback from the government in other countries. But aside from that, aside from like the public discourse, I don't really see the immediate impact of journalism in diplomacy. So yeah, I think that's your answer. I hope that satisfies what you expect from my answer.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Dzulfikar. And we still have one person who is in here. Ms. Wahyu Ramadinda, you may deliver your question.
Okay, thank you for Ms. Ire, and good afternoon for Mr. Dzulfikar and also all the participants. My name is Wahyu Rahmadinda from International Relations di Diponegoro University. As you have said, that in journalism, we just need writing skill and knowledge about the topic. And I just want to ask about what else that we as student college should be prepared to improve our abilities, especially in journalism, as we know that as international relations student, we really close about journalism, maybe like writing paper, or should know or should read about the current news, and that's it. So actually, I really interesting about the journalism. Thank you, Mr. Dzulfikar and Ms. Ire.
Okay, thank you, Wahyu. So yeah, writing papers and reading actual news will really help when you take on a journalist job. But there's also some other underrated skills that is actually necessary if you want to be a journalist. First, it's how to read an academic paper, especially during the times of COVID-19. Like if you become a journalist and you happen to cover public health, COVID-19 crisis, you really have to know how to parse the information from scientific journals, from academic papers related to COVID-19 and the public policy surrounding this issue. So that's a first. Depending on the media, you may have some additional language in your skill set. If you want to work at the Jakarta Post, for example, you have to have some certain level of English. When I joined the Jakarta Post, I think the requirement was 550 score in TOEFL, I guess. So language is second. And I think we also need to improve our skills in, I don't know, communications, both direct and indirect, because sometimes what news you get as a journalist partly depends on how can you approach a source, and how can you negotiate with them, tell you what's going on under the hood. Right? For example, when I was covering the metropolitan beat for Jakarta, the greater Jakarta, I had a scoop. A scoop is kind of information that you got before anyone else got it. A scoop from the transportation department of Jakarta administration that there would be some form of tightening and mobility restrictions. I got that from the head of the transportation department. I tried to call him by phone call, because there was this PSPB going on. So I have to negotiate with them over WhatsApp chat and phone call. That's kind of the challenge. So yeah, communication, both direct and indirect, is third. And I think the last one really depends on what kind of journalist you want to be. If you want to be a news anchor on TV screens, you may have to practice your public skills. If you want to be a visual journalist, like those in maybe box with B or F, they need some form of video and photography skills, right? And to some extent, animation skills, so that you can be a lot of information and then pack it into a graph that you can animate, so that you can, engage readers in a way. And if you want to be a data journalist, you may want to pick up some statistical and programming skills. I don't know whether you still have statistics class, but if you don't, I really suggest that you learn it by yourself. Maybe read an online course,
Recording in progress.
maybe join an online course. So yeah, I think to recap, maybe you need some language, video, photography, statistics, and what else? Communication. Yeah, I think that's the additional skills that you might have, that you will have. And sorry, last one, for the writing skill, you also need to if you read a news or something, you may want to try to parse the structure of that news, especially if you read news from different organizations. If you want to be a journalist at Kompas, you may want to understand the structure of the news writing, the writing style of Kompas, because the structure of the news or the writing style will differ from one media to another. Do you have any more questions?
Thank you for the answer, Mr. Dzulfikar.
Sure.
Okay, then I think I have to move for the next question, and this question is from the chat box again, so I'm gonna read it for you. Yeah, this question is from Miss Samira Alaidrus. Hi, Mr. Dzulfikar. This is Shamira from University of Pelita Harapan. I'm sorry I can turn my camera on since this class is actually running together with my class with media. I wanna ask you a question. I have learned about the role that media plays in political behavior, especially in shaping the political agenda. Would you mind to share your opinion about it from the perspective of journalists? Thank you.
Okay, I think we will just, what about collecting the questions first, maybe 3 questions, and then I'll try to form my answer to those questions.
Okay, so maybe I'm gonna move to the next question and then you're gonna elaborate your answer. Okay. Okay, for the next question, I'm sorry, it's from Tiara Fauziyah. It's from Tiara Fauziyah. Afternoon, Mr. Dzulfikar. This is Tiara from Al Azhar University. Sorry, I have some issues in my microphone. May I know what is the most beneficial things you've obtained from international relations study in your career as a journalist in the Jakarta Post right now? And okay, so for the last one is from Kan Kaligis. Hi, Mr. Dzulfikar. My name is Pinkan. First of all, I'm sorry I can't turn on my camera. My question is, as someone coming from international relation backgrounds, what are the difficulties or the challenges you find when you join into the journalism field? Thank you. That's all from the.
Okay, thank you, Miracle. And I think I'll respond first to the question from Shamira about political behavior and agenda. So actually, we at the media, I believe, all media organizations do this. They may have maybe a weekly or a monthly meeting where the editorial team, the journalists, the editors, managing editors, will convene and try to discuss what are the current pressing issues that needs to be covered, and what are other issues that want to pursue and then push as some form of agenda setting. But the impact on really setting the course of political behavior and agenda in the public at large will really depend on the engagement and reach of that media organization. So I think to some extent, especially for the readers and subscribers of the media organization can certainly raise some awareness about the issues of the agenda that they are passionate about. For example, if you look at maybe Talk, for example, they are very vocal on some social and political issues, especially related to social justice issues. Right? And they have managed to successfully raise the awareness of readers, especially those following this organization on Twitter. Right? But yeah, that will really, but this will really depend on the reach and engagement of the media. But this is a normal thing to do because yeah, media has to play some form of role in public discourse. And the next question is from Yara, I believe. What is the most beneficial things that I've taken from IRUD? Because I am a journalist who makes writing, I will say that writing is the most beneficial thing skill that I have picked up from college. When I was in like, I don't know, maybe senior year or third year in college, I have this classes from associate who pushed me to like write, say once a week, and then on top of that, I also have classes and courses from other lecturers who will also ask me to write 1,000-word essay, and then juggling these essays at once kind of helped me to kind of prepared me to take on any job that has a deadline, that has a daily deadline for writing. So I think that's the most beneficial. Although I still have to like adjust my writing skills and structure so that I can meet the styles and the guidelines. And I really believe that this will also be the case in other media organizations as well. But aside from writing, I think IR really gave me the opportunity to improve my English and prepare me to adapt with any kind of topic that face me.
Waduh, laptopku, kalian udah bisa dengar suaraku? Laptopku lola soalnya. Tantangan ya tadi ya, ini lagi SPOT ya, maaf ya, hai BTW, maaf aku baru datang karena sambil summer course. Tadi gimana tantangan kamu?
Okay, so I think we have a third question from Pinkan, I believe. What are the difficulties and challenges you find when you join the journalism field? I think one of the hardest challenges that I faced when I just got started in journalism was really trying to talk to people, because we have to get some information from sources. Whenever I had to call someone, call some officials, call some researchers, or even worse, had to ask someone for their time when they were just walking, minding their own business. I think walking in these settings was really difficult for me. When I had to do that, my inner introvert was as we progress along. Yeah, I think it's really subsided somehow. I don't know. So yeah, I guess talking to people was kind of at first.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Dzulfikar, for your explanation. Before that, I'm so sorry because there is maybe one participant who unmute the microphone, so it's kind of disturb you. But after this, because there is no one who raised their hand, I'm gonna ask to the all participants and students again. Are you wanna deliver your question to Mr. Dzulfikar? Okay, so we have one from Miss Ataya. You may deliver your question.
Okay, and Mr. Dzulfikar for the insightful presentation. My name is Ataya. I'm an IR student from Universitas Diponegoro. So I have a question for you, Mr. So right now I'm a part of a non-governmental organization and I work for the social media matters and stuff related to external affairs. So as a part of NGOs movement, I feel like we have to stand in between society and also the government. Because of that, I found it a little bit hard when I want to deliver an information or like some issues regarding to the society or maybe a government. So what I want to ask is there any tips that I can do and writing information related to the movement, but also quote unquote, without taking one side or judging one of the government or society? Is my question clear, Mr.? Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. So I think your question relates to how can we maintain our unbiasedness to some extent. But I believe there are many ways that you can try to do this. First, whenever you make some claims regarding some issues, you have to try to back it up with other data. Right? You got to find evidence of that claim. So it's not just some, I don't know, an attack on someone or some organization. That's a first. You get the data. And then second, which I think is more important, is try to get both sides. Try to get comments from both sides. That's what we can get. So if you are writing about how an advocacy group was criticizing the government, it's not enough to just input comments or statements from the advocacy group. You also have to include the response from the government regarding the comments, so that you sort of give the related party a chance to respond or answer. So I think someone just have to get the data and then ensure that you have both sides present in your writing or any kind of communication.
Okay, Miss Ataya, is that clear? Okay, thank you, Mr. Dzulfikar and Ms. Ataya. Okay, so we have still a question in chat box again. This question is from Tiara Fauzia. Okay, Mr. Dzulfikar, I would like to ask more question on how the role of mass media in shaping or directing political behavior of the elector, and based on your opinion, how effective is it? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. So this is actually a really difficult question, let's say, because the effectiveness of any media reporting on electoral votes will really have to be evaluated with a pre-planned research, right? But I think I'll just take the first question regarding how the role of mass media in shaping medical behavior of the elector. So I think any stories that the media runs will raise some form of awareness among its readers, which will happen to an elector, right? Will have to cast their votes. But raising an awareness among the readers or the electors, or any electoral participants, including the person running for the elections himself, that will really depend on a lot of things. Like maybe the reader have their own preferences. Maybe the reader have some preconceived conceptions about some issues that will just not change overnight simply because they read an article or two. So I think at the surface level, we can say that the media has something to do in raising an awareness about some issue among the public, especially when it comes to election, because the climate of the public discourse during an election is just really, really different from that during normal times. Whatever comes out from a media that happens to somehow supports a proposal from candidate or the other with any coincidence will just be portrayed by the public as some form of support, while actually it's not. But yeah, at the surface level, the media may raise an awareness to some issues, but it may not necessarily change the political stance of their readers simply because of the article. Because some disagreements just die really, really, really tough.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Dzulfikar, for your explanation. I will check it again. So is there any one of you who want to deliver or asking something to Mr. Dzulfikar? I guess not. So maybe, okay, so we have one more again from Yara Fauzi. Okay, one more question, Mr. Zulfikar. After all the roles that the media plays in shaping public opinion and providing information, we can deny that sometimes the information provided might comes from the personal perspective of the writer. So how can we ensure that the information provided is eligible?
So I think if you read and use from reputable media organizations, you can really pass the information because there's actually a long workflow behind any story that goes into that story. Fact check or to double check the data included in that story. So we try to make the story presents an accurate information, but we are concerned about any personal bias in the story. I think it's pretty easy to spot when you read an article that has some personal bias, because chances are those personal biases may not be backed up by data, or it will just come across as some opinion instead of reading facts, because news is basically just a journalist telling the readers what are the facts on the ground. So personal biases may occur, but I really think that it's very easy to spot on in the news if you find one.
Okay, thank you. And we have one more question again from the chat box. It comes from Mr. Nathan Jekili. Good afternoon, Mr. Dzulfikar. My name is Nathan. In terms of your work life, how do you choose the next topic you want to cover? Thank you.
Yeah, this is actually a really interesting question from Nathan. Thank you. So there's actually a lot of ways in the next topic. First, as a business journalist, I have a regular things to cover, such as the monthly inflation data or monthly trade data, or the quarterly report on our economic growth. So that's one. And we can also have a lot of invitations to events or any release of research or public opinion surveys. And then whenever we get those invitations, we have to filter out like which ones we really think is worth it to become a story and then push that in our website. So that's the second. We can a lot of invitations for any events that's available, maybe a hearing at the House of Representatives, and then we try to read the agenda, whether there will be any interesting discussions during the hearing, or if not, we can just dismiss it. And third, I've been trying to pursue some data-driven stories. So for this type of stories, there's also a lot of ways that I can I can try to pursue a story that's currently trending on social media like Twitter, and then try to see it from a statistical context, and then provide some data and visualizations that can share. And or I can just find any data sets and then dig into the data, analyze the data, try to find some meaningful stories. An example of this is a story about wealth inequality that I did in the middle of this year. So yeah, I think there are like three things. And the last one is sometimes our editors or managing editors just have some agenda to set, and then they want to pursue this further. Like, for example, maybe your editor wants you to pursue a story about our proposed tax bill. Like, so that's one of the ways to choose the next one that you want to cover.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Dzulfikar. So we still have one more question. It actually comes from our committee, but I think she is curious about this topic. So Ms. Areta, you may get it for your question.
Good. I think it's kind of dark here, but actually it's still in the afternoon time. So a very good afternoon for Mr. Dzulfikar. I'm terribly sorry for before. I think my voice, my mic just got IDK. I don't really know how it got unmute, but firstly, I want to say sorry about that. Then moving on to my question, actually, I have gotten a little visualization from your answers before, from the questions before mine, but I want to ask a bit. Actually, from my personal perspective, I'm kind of afraid that it's a little personal and a little sensitive, but I'm very curious about it, about your opinion of how journalism, how media is as an actor that could and have such a big potential of constructing a reality for a nation, for its people. What is your perspective about it? Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. That's a really heavy question right there. So I think reality is a big word, and again, as I said, no matter how as much as you want to think that has some magic power to set what people think. Do this, it's not. Because one media may have a very large audience, but the other media may just not have that large base of audience. And then these two media will likely have a different agenda to set during the week, during the day, during the year. And you can see that you can actually see how a media responds to the issue and wants to set its voice clear among the public by looking or comparing their front page if they have a newspaper. You can see that the main headline of the media and compare it with others. If this media ran a headline on article A, but the other media, maybe twice other media, was running a headline on story B, that clearly signals some form of agenda setting that separates the first media from the other five. But does that mean people will simply I don't know, preoccupied with story? Although in some cases they do. If you look at the recent trending tweets, there is this research from Kompas about housing affordability in Jakarta. This story was featured as a headline story on Kompas, I think, a few days ago. And then I think Kompas successfully managed to set this topic as a public discourse, at least on Twitter. A lot of people, thousands of people are reading this, liking this, discussing over this. And then the other story that is currently trending is about smoking, right? Because there's this issue started with the manifesto for, I don't know, support, I guess, I don't really follow, from Bloomberg for anti-cigarette campaign in Jakarta. And media was quick to ship that. But does that mean the media has created a new reality for the public? I don't think so. Because sometimes the media also follows whatever the reality is and then try to shed some light on the reality instead of creating. I hope that answers.
Yes, that gave me quite a little bit of visualization. So thank you very much for the answer, Mr. Dzulfikar.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, thank you. So actually, we still have one more question, and I think it's from Tiara again. I think that she is really interested in this journalism thing. So she said that she interested with your topic. So if we are interested to know more, would you mind if we ask further about it outside the forum?
Totally. Anyone who wants to ask me about this journalism stuff, right away, maybe try to reach me with my email, which is included in the first slide of this session, or maybe you can reach me through Twitter emails.
Okay, maybe the committee can help the participant or the students to give your email and your Twitter account later. So maybe I think personally, I really want to know something from you, Mr. Dzulfikar, because I'm international relations students too. And I think when you joining the internship with related policy, it must be interesting. And I think for me, it's gonna be, like give a very beneficial feedback for me. So I mean that, would you mind if you share your experience, maybe your struggle and how you overcome with that when you joining the internship in the policy setting?
Okay, so I took this internship at Center for International Policy Studies and kids. Actually, also have our alumni, Mr. Sintra, who is currently researcher at CIPS. when I took this internship, I got rotated 3 times, and then that was like the best part of this internship. I got to experience the research department, and then I moved on to the external affairs, external communications department, and then the last one is operations department. So I think the first challenge that I faced when I took this internship was really getting to know the topics, because their focus was one of the focus was on agriculture, and then agriculture is the kind of field that has a lot of technical terms and some unfamiliar terms for me. So I had to learn about agriculture by myself, and then I tried to talk with some researchers as well, so that I can gain more understanding. And then as I did this internship day by day, I was also involved in a lot of events. I helped them like organize the events, maybe try to document the events, or write the notes of some FGD forums of discussions, which involved a lot of actors, including governments, business representatives, and then some representatives from the families. I think those these exposure to these discussions also helped me understand more about the issues that they are researching on. And aside from agriculture, I also learned more about the IT, which is also one of their focus. And I think one of the most rewarding thing about this internship is I got some experience in helping them executing a project that distributed scholarship for students in low-cost private schools, which happens to be a thing, and this is really, really wonderful experience.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Dzulfikar. It's really insightful explanation. Maybe do you want to have a closing statement, maybe for the student in here or not?
Okay, I think to close our session today, I just want to say that if you think that you like journalism, maybe by reading news or joining the students press, consider taking an internship so that you can get a sense of how journalism operates on a day-to-day basis. But if you're the type of person who, just like me, didn't really know what to do during the second or third final year in college, that's totally okay as well, because you will somehow find something that you're passionate about, and you have found one thing. You have to like double down your effort to like have some expertise down.
Okay, thank you very much for the amazing closing statement. And thank you once again, Mr. Dzulfikar, for today's discussion. It's very interesting and insightful for us, of course. And after this, we are gonna have photo sessions. And for the students, please turn on your camera. So for the operator, can you help me to capture the screen?
Okay, let us start. 1, 2, 3. This is for the first layer, by the way. 1, 2, 3. And for the second layer, 1, 2, 3. For the third layer, wow, 1, 2, 3. For the last layer, 1, 2, 3. Okay, let's finish, Ire. I'll give it back to you.
Okay, thank you, operator, for helping me. Okay, so unfortunately, I have to say that this is the end of today's session. And thank you once again, Mr. Dzulfikar, and for all the participants and students. Don't forget to come again tomorrow because we still have another amazing speaker with interesting topic too in both session. And for the first session, there is Mr. Michael Arondwari with the topic of business internationalization. And for the second session, there is Miss Stephanie Damron, and she will talk about gastro diplomacy through Indonesian cuisine. So I hope that all of you can join again. And after this, you may leave this room, and we'll see you again tomorrow in 11 a.m. as usual. Thank you, everyone, and have a nice